busy month, so we'll start with the usual Gantt chart. We saw this from last month, so the thing to note here is that each region we've had positive growth as far as a task being accomplished. With Region 2 getting a lot of work done as well. On average, you see, 9 is the peak, 2 is the lowest, so we're somewhere in there around 5. That means that on a per regional basis, we're all, with except the Region 5, which is almost there, we're all way above the 50% mark on a regional basis. So when we look at the overall project, we went from 56 to 60%. Of course, it's always hard to judge what does that really mean, but there's definitely a lot of tasks that have been happening in the background. We showed this last time. Again, this Q2 starting in July and Q3 are going to be our busiest quarters for the year. Definitely a lot of activity in all of these sites, 35 in Q2, 26 in Q3. Overall, with the big number down here being a total of 89 sites throughout the state. So we've been ramping up, and we're about to get really, really busy. It seems like the raining has ceased, so that's good. We got a lot of openings that we can start draining and start pouring concrete in. As far as general activities, the biggest thing that's been keeping us really busy has been the integration of the Woodbury County. Woodbury County, we're going through the same thing as we did with Westcom. We have a connection to the simulcast cell, and they were in the process of being upgraded from 7.6 release all the way up to 7.16 to be compatible with the statewide core. We've managed to split the simulcast cell. We've added DC power, and right now we have half of the simulcast cell actually operating on the Isics core right now. But in order to avoid interference, we have those sites transmitting on dummy loads until we finish with the other half of the system. So the users right now are operating on half of the system as it is today. And by the end of this week, we figured that we'll be able to transition all the users onto the Isics core. It's very sensitive work. A lot of stuff happens in the wee hours of the morning, so a lot of coordination is taking place. A lot of tasks that have to be done when the sites get taken down. We got to do them in a hurry. Channel assets have been added to all the sites. So again, just a lot of coordination in order to minimize effect on local operations. So once that's done, we'll have Woodbury and Westcom, basically the two largest metro area systems integrated, as well as Dallas County as well. We continue to have microwave dish installations throughout the state. Again, as the sites become available, we're working on those. That's definitely a big task as well. Again, the biggest issue for us has been wind. Some of these dishes are relatively large, 6 to 8 feet, so having windy days means that we have to cancel those installs because those things start swinging around. It becomes dangerous. We'll have some work, we're working on some DOT site issues right now that we should be able to get through those in a relatively quick manner so we can continue building the additional sites. We're also working to have a mobile trunk site on wheels. Basically, we want to take one of the trailers and put in a site that is comparable to what you have on your sites. And we're working right now with our installer to get those fitted into one of the trailers, emergency trailers. We had opportunity to do training, so a core group from here went to do some training. Some of the folks are here. I mentioned if Dave or Scott could just mention a few words about their experience in the training. I figure that would be useful for you guys to hear. So if one of you guys want to come up front.
Morning.
Morning.
Several members of DPS, myself, Dave Britton, Scott Richardson, technician, Tom Lampy, from DOT, Steve Gray, and Jared, I can't remember his last name. Green. Attended the Systems Administrator course in Schaumburg and Motorola. It was a very informative course. It had to do with radio management, talk group management, radio IDs, system reports. There was an encompassing course about managing the entire radio system, like I said, system managers course. It's a course that's probably not necessarily for all users. It's going to be primarily for those folks that are involved in the administration of the actual radio network. But the instructor was great, in depth, answered all the questions. It'd be very helpful. We learned a lot of things about moving the system forward as far as managing the radio network. So, if there's any other questions, no?
Appreciate it. Any questions?
Thanks. Yeah, the big thing there is there's going to be opportunities for additional training, but we wanted to send them out there so that they can experience some of the flexibilities and the capabilities as a system, because that also helps in thinking when we start talking with the user groups or the technology groups. It starts to help that process of thinking, well, the system works this way, you guys want to do this, and it really just makes the conversation flow a lot easier. As Sean mentioned, the outreach efforts, we've completed those for all the regions. I was involved specifically to talk about the deployment of the system. And these were the core things that we covered. And I do feel that as we went through, it got better and better. And so I'm looking forward to the next phase, because we can even focus more on either different committees and different groups and different entities throughout the state, so we can get the message out more. See, these were the 4 main issues that we focused on, at least from my perspective. The biggie here is the reality of the system deployment. There is still a lot of disbelief that this is going to be deployed anytime soon. And so the main message behind the outreach presentation is that we're going to build this thing by the end of the year, and we're going to turn the keys over by summer of next year. So there seems to be a lot of surprise and shock by that, because it seems like everybody's hearing the opposite. This is never going to happen, not realizing all the work that we've been doing in the background. So the main message behind this was to make sure that people understood there's been a ton of work and a ton of money spent on getting this system to where we are just about to start doing a lot of physical work out in the field. We addressed a lot of misconceptions and concerns. Again, that was important because when you don't believe that the system is going to be built, that's usually accompanied with, well, but this, and well, but that. And so there's a lot of misgivings about it. So we were able to address a lot of those there as well. The other piece of this, the other 2 pieces of this, is the future and FirstNet. So one of the things that we want to make sure that people understood is that once we deploy the system, that's not the end of it, right? That you're going to have 10 years worth of software upgrades to the system. So capabilities and system capacity will evolve, and it only gets better over time. And that's for 10 years. And a piece of that is the fact that Motorola is a partner in the FirstNet and that endeavor. And because of that, we're able to put a lot of vision and software hooks into the system for enabling greater interoperability into those types of technologies. That's all I had. Any questions?
Thank you, Melvin. Any